just delve into this text with me as I simply seek to be a witness tonight. And if God could raise up what was once a nappy-headed boy from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, by way of Washington, D.C., God could raise me up to be a witness. God can surely same with you. Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 17 through 20, I believe. I prayed about tonight. I believe these scriptures capture the essence of our leaders in this movement tonight, but also the essence of what the Lord is calling of us. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 17 and following. Then I said to them, "You see the trouble we're in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. They replied, 'Let us start rebuilding.' And so they began this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. 'What is this you are doing?' they asked. 'Are you rebelling against the king?' I answered them by saying, 'The God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it.'" May God's blessing be upon his word now and forevermore. Amen. For a moment, I just want to witness from the subject, we can do this thing. I'm going to ask you to turn to somebody else real quick and just tell them, we can do this thing. Find somebody else, eye contact, and just say, we can do this thing. One more person, find them, say, yeah, you. We gonna do this thing. I just stand as a witness tonight that when our churches and communities imagine, invest in, and impact. Y'all know those three words? When we, our churches and communities, imagine, invest in, and impact together our cities, counties, and country with life-transforming social impact and entrepreneurship, we can achieve Black wealth, build Black wealth, and expand Black wealth, thereby expanding wealth for all people. And I'm a living witness that when we rise up and build as a people with a mind to work, we can do this thing. Tell somebody, we can do this thing. Walk with me, will you? This this famous biblical character in our text tonight who was in exile 1,000 miles from home, working what my peeps back home called a GGJ, a good government job, but stuck in a situation that he did not want to be in. Anybody in a situation you do not want to be in? One day gets a surprise visit from his boys in the hood. This famous biblical character asks his boys in the hood how things were going in his city, his neighborhood. If I can be a little imaginative in the text, because Dr. Williams said we need to imagine this week, he asked them whether or not black people and communities were being empowered to build multi-generational wealth, thereby making opportunities accessible and securing social enterprise and economic prosperity for all people. He asked them whether or not imagining, investing, and impacting were taking place in their old stomping grounds. Come on with me, somebody. Walk with me. He asked them whether the imagination, whether the investment, whether the impact was taking place in the space where he grew up. Walk with me. But then the reply came. The reply he received back from them was one that shook him to his core, and one that he did not want to hear. They told him that the walls of the city had been torn down and its gates had been burned with and by fire. If I can, Dr. Blount, imagine a little bit more, if I can imagine a little bit more, if I can imagine again the institutional racism of his day, the economic injustice and inequity, the plantation capitalism, as the late James Lawson used to put it, the political game playing and a lack of knowledge by the people had devastated the neighborhood that he once knew and had created a condition like today, where some have recorded that black wealth today is just 1% more than it was during the Reconstruction period after slavery in the 1800s. I wish I had somebody tonight. This famous biblical character in the text, whose name means the Lord has comforted, suddenly feels discomfort. Is anybody feeling discomfort tonight? His heart broke. He was crushed in spirit, demoralized in his soul, disenfranchised by a confluence of events concocted by principalities and powers, private and governmental sector conspiracies, and a general disobedience and disconnect by and of the people. But he didn't just sit there and say, Lord, have mercy. Ain't that a beep? Lord, have mercy. No. He didn't do that. This was his town. They were talking about his town. This is where he was from. Generations got him to where he was today, and he wasn't going to let it go down like that without a fight. I wish I had somebody here who's not going to let it go down without a fight. Come on, somebody. This famous biblical character in the text summoned his inner strength. He prayed and planned. He took a risk when the opportunity presented itself. He got up and told his people, you see the trouble that we're in, how our communities lie in ruin. Come, let us rise up and build. Sounds like a problem and a solution and a product market fit to me. Somebody was at lunch today and was paying attention. Sound like a problem and a solution and a product market fit to me. Come on, somebody. Sean Cohen was in that thing today, and they did so because the people had a mind to work, because this famous biblical character in the text knew that when churches and communities imagine and invest in and impact together our cities, counties, and country with life-transforming social impact and entrepreneurship, we can achieve black wealth, build black wealth, and expand black wealth, thereby expanding wealth for all. Come on, somebody. Tell somebody, we gonna do this thing. Perhaps you are a witness that we can. Yes, we can. I know I'm a witness that we can. My faith tells me that with God all things are possible. I'm a witness that we can. I serve as the lead pastor of the Emory Fellowship, a black, multi-ethnic United Methodist congregation in Washington, D.C. I've served this congregation representing 20 different nationalities, predominantly African American, for more than 32 years. I had hair when I got there. Come on with me, somebody. I was assigned to the church in 1992. We were in trouble. We had a problem. Our walls were crumbling. The essence of our black community in the Brightwood neighborhood of Northwest D.C., Danny Everett, was decaying. But one of my homeboys said that walking along the major avenue in the community, Georgia Avenue, was like walking through the night of the living dead. Come on with me, somebody. Our 50-person worshiping congregation at the time had been threatened with closure on 3 occasions. Our church building was almost sold on 2 occasions. The only thing keeping us open was the community, represented by Mrs. Lillette Campbell, who ran a private Afrocentric school right across the street, and one day asked if she could rent our dingy, nasty fellowship hall and our nasty-looking classroom space for $2,400 a month. Thanks be to God for that $2,400 a month. It kept us from closing. Somebody need to tap somebody and say, somebody kept us from closing. Lord have mercy. Our church grounds, you heard Sydney talk about it, our church grounds were covered with broken bottles and beer cans lodged into the ground. Used condoms and used syringes graced the stairwells of our church from Sunday to Sunday. The smell of urine emanated from the front steps, the evidence of a transient lifestyle of men and women who were homeless and who came our way for temporary shelter. Lord, have mercy. Trouble was all around us. Somebody say, trouble is all around me. But like this famous biblical character in the text modeled for us, we didn't sit around in our heartbreak. We did not sit around in our heartbreak. We did not say, woe is me. We found ourselves fueled by the heartbreak. We looked for a solution, Dr. Cohen said, and like him, we discovered that when our churches and communities imagine and invest in and impact together our cities, our counties, and our country with life-transforming social impact and entrepreneurship, we can achieve black wealth, build black wealth, and expand black wealth, thereby expanding wealth for everybody. I wish I had somebody here. Somebody needs to say, we can do this thing. Somebody needs to say we can fish differently. Somebody need to tell your neighbor right now, you need to pull out a fishing pole and fish differently. I don't know about you. I'm a witness. I'm a witness that we can. Tell somebody, I'm a witness. I'm a witness that we can, like this famous biblical character in the text. We began to survey our situation. You got to survey your situation, y'all. You got to know what's happening. We discovered that we were the victims of a system crafted to work against us, a system of oppression. In my city, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, some say the most important city in the world, we discovered that the systemic culprit was an abominable wealth gap fueled by income and inheritance discrepancies, leading to the deterioration of so much in the black community. We found out 5 to 7 years ago that the average median income in the nation's capital was $120,000 a year. It's $156,000 a year now. But 5 years ago, it was $120,000 a year. And that the average median income for a white family of 4 was also $120,000 a year. We then found out that the average median income for a Latino family of 4 was only $41,000 a year. We then discovered that the average median income for a black family of 4 was just $38,000 a year. Today, somebody say today. Today in D.C., there is a $100,000 a year wealth gap between whites and blacks and people of color in the nation's capital, the most important city in the world. And we aren't even talking about the very little that people have saved and invested. But like this famous biblical character in the text, we didn't go to happy hour sulking about it. Shucks, this character in the text was a bartender himself. He served the king wine. If you don't believe me, look it up. He didn't sulk about his situation. Y'all ever notice that bartenders are always sober? I wish I had somebody here tonight. He did not sulk about it. He did not drink his worries away. He did not ask for Uncle Nearest, Lord have mercy. Nor did he ask for Johnny Walker Red. No, he looked for the product market fit. He organized his village to do a community assessment, one that took him into the hood at night and caused him to walk the streets during the day. Because your neighborhood looks different and acts different, talks different, and walks different at nighttime than it does during the day. I wish I had somebody. And we at the Emory Fellowship decided that we would do the same. We did hundreds, somebody say 100. We did hundreds of one-on-one relational meetings with people in our community. We got out of the seats and into the streets to just talk to people, get to know people, interact with people, listen to people, hear people, ask people what their vision was for their neighborhood, what they wanted to see their neighborhood become, what DC could become. And as we talked to people, they kept saying to us, we need affordable housing. The senior citizen who lived all her life in Brightwood was being priced out of her home because of rising property taxes. The tenant down the street was struggling with a landlord who kept raising his rent. The man and woman homeless at our doorstep weekly but working during the day told us what they needed. We need affordable housing. Folk coming to church every Sunday, Reb, we need affordable housing. For years, we performed the rituals of the church. You heard Dr. Williams this afternoon. We worshiped Sunday after Sunday. We got our groove on. We had a good time, all to return Sunday afternoon and throughout the week to the sight of a marginalized and disenfranchised community all around us. But the moment we decided as a church to not get lost in ritual, but to focus on revival, the moment we decided to not get caught up in routine, but to lean into relationship, the moment we decided to invest in lives, not ignore lives, we started witnessing life change and community transformation, even our own. We awakened to what this famous biblical character in the text discovered himself. You ought to have it by now, and that is that when churches and communities have the audacity to imagine and invest in and impact together our cities, counties, and country with life-transforming social impact and entrepreneurship, we can achieve black wealth, build black wealth, and expand black wealth, thereby expanding wealth for everybody. Somebody say everybody. Somebody tell somebody, we can do this thing. Tell somebody, I'm going to do it right now. Tell somebody it's time to fish differently. I'm a witness that we can. Let me bring this thing on home. Like this famous biblical character in the text did in his day. By the year 2008, our then 400-person worshiping congregation announced to our community what the corporate world used to call, still calls. I heard it the other day, a BHAG. Anybody know what a BHAG is? Yeah, come on with me, somebody. They called it that, and we decided we would call it that. And we announced to our community and city that we were pursuing a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. It was a goal that emerged from the community and the congregation, because your community is your congregation. It was a vision that we were going to invest in lives with far more than just religious rituals that people say is church. But we were going to be church in the community 24/7. This famous biblical character in the text had vision. You ought to read about him. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Where a church has no vision, a church perishes. Where a family has no vision, a family perishes. Where you and I have no vision, we perish. We announced that even as a working class congregation, we were going to leverage our resources, our church property, our personal assets, our time, our money into addressing the number one issue in our neighborhood and the District of Columbia as a whole even today, and that was affordable housing. We were going to do our part to build and rebuild, achieve and expand Black wealth in our community by investing and leveraging all we had, to see to it that people who were homeless, people who are the working poor, people on the lower income levels of the economic spectrum, people who work the infrastructure jobs in our city, but because of the high cost of living in Washington, D.C., cannot afford to live in our city. We were going to do our part. Somebody say our part. To use what we had to bring hope to people who daily invested their lives into the city. Teachers, home health care aides, firefighters, police officers, cab drivers, barbers, hairstylists, retirees, senior citizens, preachers, Lord have mercy, even those moving from homelessness to permanent residency, to see that they could have a truly affordable place to live and at the same time generate revenue streams. And so, like this famous biblical character in the text did, we leveraged our access. Like Nehemiah had access to the king, we had access to our mayor. We had access to our city council. We had access to corporate leaders. We had access to power. Nehemiah used it, and we used it too. Why? Because we learned like he did. Y'all ought to have it by now. Y'all ought to be able to recite it with me by now. When churches and communities imagine, invest in, and impact together our cities, our counties, and our country with life-transforming social impact and entrepreneurship, what? We can achieve Black wealth, build Black wealth, expand Black wealth, thereby expanding wealth for all. When we rise up and build together with a mind to work, we can do this thing. Somebody need to tell somebody we can do this thing. I'm coming home now. I told you I'm a witness. For in 2019, 7 years after we actively started, but just 5 years ago, 11 months before the COVID-19 pandemic shut us down, our congregation of 400 predominantly working class Black folk celebrated the opening of the Beacon Center, a $60 million, 99-unit affordable rental housing commercial and congregational development facility where people making $70,000 a year or less, up to a family of 4, low-income wages in D.C., could live in luxury apartments with marble countertops and carpeted floors and a washer and dryer in every unit. A contractor asked us, "Why are you building this expensive housing for poor people?" We said, "Because poor people deserve more than anybody else deserves." I wish I had somebody here. You see, families could begin building black wealth because the rents in our building for a 3-bedroom and a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom and a studio are half the price or less than the average rental units in D.C. The average 2-bedroom apartment today in D.C. is $3,300 a month. The most you're going to pay in our building is for a 3-bedroom unit at $1,500 a month. Our project is fully affordable. I wish I had somebody. 60% of the average median income. We don't need to settle for 10% affordability. We don't need to settle for 30% affordability. We need to be demanding at least 60% of affordability so people can really build the kind of wealth they need. I wish I had somebody here. Huh? We got about 800 people on our wait list right now. Access. I'm coming home. Access. Access led to 57 million of the 60 million being covered. The church took a risk and said, "We'll take on the 3 million. We don't have it, but somehow God keeps making a way out of no way, because when you walk by faith and not by sight, you know that God will make a way." Generational wealth is being built in at least 300 families, thanks be to God, because a congregation saw that we can do this thing. Tell somebody, we can do this thing. Yeah, you will face opposition. There will be a Sanballat and a Tobiah and a Geshem in your church. There will be a Sanballat and a Tobiah and a Geshem in your building project. Like Nehemiah reveals, when hope and wholeness show up on the scene, there will always be people in the neighborhood who do not like what's going on. Why? Because they are benefiting off of somebody else's oppression. Lord have mercy. For us, it was the historical preservation people. For us, it was the Civil War buffs who wanted to preserve the fort next door and who came up lying and cheating and talking all kind of nonsense. But we would find out that not only the fort, but also our church property had been owned by an African-American woman, free African-American woman, and her grandmother all the way back to 1800. And what we thought was a vision that God had given to our church actually was a vision that began in 1800. Because that black woman in 1800 was housing runaway slaves on her property, housing free blacks on her property, housing black folk who had nowhere to go, nowhere to turn, because they couldn't live on the fort because of segregation. But thanks be to God, a black woman in 1800 said, "We gonna do this thing, we gonna fish differently." I wish I had somebody right now. And don't be fooled. Sometimes the opposition will not look like you, and sometimes it will look like you. But you just stick to the vision. You just keep pursuing the mission. If you remember that when our churches and communities imagine, invest in, impact together our cities, our counties, and our country with life-transforming social impact, entrepreneurship, we can achieve black wealth. We can build black wealth. We can expand black wealth, thereby expanding wealth for all. You need to tell somebody, we can do this thing. Tell somebody, we can do this thing. Oh yeah, then we'll see children. We'll see children double dutching on the street corner, not worried about bullets flying. Oh yeah, we will see young people happy in the streets that they've got a new place to live. We'll see our own children not worried about going to college or trade school, but we'll see scholarships coming. We'll see everybody living affordably, everybody pursuing their dream, everybody taking off in their vision. Why? Because we can do this thing. Tell somebody, we can do this thing. Tell somebody, I'm gonna do this thing. I want to leave you with this. I'm reminded of my grandmama Sadie. Mama Sadie, we called her. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was my mother's mother, my grandmother on my mother's side. My daddy was from New Orleans, Louisiana. And I remember always going to see Mama Sadie as a kid because we lived in Philly and then in D.C. And we'd always drive up the Pennsylvania Turnpike coming from Philly, or we go up 70 to Breezewood and then get on the turnpike to go to Pittsburgh from D.C. And I remember that before we would ever leave Pittsburgh, Mama Sadie would gather us on the porch, or she would gather us in what they called the front room, the living room. And she would always call on the name of the Lord before we got on the road. It became such a ritual that we didn't leave town until Mama Sadie prayed. And I remember as a kid, one time, for some reason, we were about to get on the highway and we hadn't gone by Mama Sadie's house. And I tapped my daddy from the back seat. I said, Dad. He said, what, son? I said, Mama Sadie ain't prayed. And my dad immediately did a U-turn and went back to Mama Sadie's porch, to her front room, in order to hear and receive Mama Sadie's prayer. And my Mama Sadie, in her prayer, would always say two words that as a little kid struck me because I never fully understood what she meant. She would say in the prayer, Lord, undertake. And oftentimes when we go to Pittsburgh, I wonder what she meant, because oftentimes we went to Pittsburgh for funerals. And my family would always use the language that we had to go see the undertaker. So why was my grandmother asking the Lord to undertake us? We ain't want to die, we wanted to live. And then I got a little grown. I got me some edumacation. And one day the Lord had me do a word study on the word undertake. And when I did a word study on the word undertake, there was the word entrepreneur. And I got happy right there because my grandmother was telling me, son, what I need you to do in life. And what she was telling me was, son, what the Lord wants you to do in life more than anything is that you need to be a social entrepreneur. You need to come under something and take it to places and spaces where God wants it to go. You need to come under people and take them to places and spaces where God wants them to go. Is there anybody here tonight who is prepared to come under this thing and take this thing called social impact and entrepreneurship to heights that God has not allowed us to see? I tell you, we can do it. Tell your neighbor, we can do this thing.